Okay, we're on lesson 9, which is going to be on factoring an expression with two terms. So first, before we actually go into factoring, we're going to talk about how to find the GCF, or the greatest common factor. When we find factors of numbers, we're going to set up a chart that's going to kind of help us figure this out. So I'm going to write my number first, like this, so 14. And then I'm going to list starting at 1. 1 times what is 14? Well, 1 times 14 is 14. Then I'm going to go down to 2. 2 times what is 14? 2 times 7. Then I'm going to think, is 3 times anything going to give me 14? If you're not sure, you can plug it in the calculator and do 14 divided by 3. If it gives you a decimal, it is not a factor. It needs to be a whole number. I can do the same thing. 3 does not work. I'm going to go to 4. 4 also doesn't work. I'm going to go to 5. Well, for 5s and 10s, if your number ends in a 5 or a 0, then it would be divisible by 5 or 10. It does not end in a 5 or 0, so there we are. And 6 also does not go into 14 evenly. So those are the factors of 14. Let's find the factors of 28. So 28, I'm going to start with 1. 1 times 28 is 28. 2 times 14 is 28. Another little trick for 3s and 9s is if you add up the numbers in your number. So if I add 8 plus 2, 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 is not a number that is divisible by 3. So therefore, 3 does not go into 28. So I'm going to go to 4. 4 times 7 is 28. 5 does not go in evenly because this number doesn't end in a 5 or a 0. 6 does not go into 28. And we already have 7. So those are all my factors. Now, once I have all my factors, I want to figure out what the greatest common factor is. So the largest number that is in both of them. So I'm going to first just kind of underline all the numbers they have in common. So 1, 14, 2, and 7 are all the numbers they have in common. But the largest number that they have in common is 14. So that would be their greatest common factor. So now we're going to practice the distributive property again. So remember, when we distribute, we want to circle the number out in front and draw our arrows because we're multiplying to all the terms on the inside of the parentheses. So 2 times x, 2 times 5. So 2 times 1x is 2x. 2 times 5 is 10. So 2x plus 10. Distribute my 3. 3 times 1x, 3 times 4. So 3x plus 12. Distribute my 6. 6 times x, 6 times 1. 6x plus 1. 6x plus 6. Distribute my 7. 7 times 1x, 7 times negative 3. So 7x minus 21. Now we're going to put both those things we just practiced together. So when we factor an expression, what we're trying to do is find the largest number we can divide or take out of the expression. So if I have the expression 15x plus 25, the first thing I'm going to do is find the GCF by listing all of my factors. So I'm going to set it up like we did our first set of problems. So 15, 25. So 1 and 15, 3 and 5. That's it. 1 and 25. 2 does not go into 25. 3 does not go into 25. 4 does not go into 25. 5 does. 5 times 5. I'm going to find the greatest common factor. The largest number that goes into both of those is 5. So the GCF is 5. Step 2, I'm going to divide each term by the GCF. So remember when we learned the distributive property? We used rectangular arrays. We're going to do that same thing to factor, but we're going to work backwards. So factoring undoes the distributive property. So I'm going to divide out 5. So your GCF is going to go out in the front, and you're going to divide out 5 from both of your terms. 15x divided by 5 would be 3x. 25 divided by 5 is positive 5. So I'm going to have my GCF, and then whatever's on the top goes on the inside of my parentheses. So 3x plus 5. When I go to write this as the answer, though, I don't want just 3x plus 5. I need the greatest common factor out in front. So 5 times 3x plus 5. All right, let's put this all together. So it says factor each expression, 72t plus 8. All right, I am going to have you try this one. Try this one on your own. So list all of the factors, divide them, write your answer. And then pause. So pause the video, try it on your own. When you're all set, unpause the video and check. So I'm going to list all of my factors first. So it's 72 and 8. My recommendation, list the factors for the smaller one first. It'll just kind of help you see what might go together. So we've got 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 24, 4 and 18, 6 and 12, and 8 times 9. So I'm going to find the greatest common factor. The largest factor for 8 is 8, and 8 does go into 72. So a lot of times that's the first thing you want to check is if the smallest number that's in your expression can be evenly divided or evenly put into the larger number. So 8 goes into 72 9 times. So our greatest common factor is 8. I'm going to set up our array. So 72t. Don't forget your variable. Positive 8. And we're going to divide by 8 for both of them. So 8 comes out in front. And my new value goes on the top. So 9t and 1. When I rewrite this as my answer, I'm going to put 8 on the outside of the parentheses. 9t plus 1. A great way to check this, if I think about the distributive property, if I take 8 and distribute, I should get the same thing I started with, 72t plus 8. And that's just a great way to check. Something else that I want to mention here is that if you were to accidentally use a smaller factor, so let's say instead of taking out 8, we took out 2. If I did that, what would happen is I would get, well, actually, you know what? On the side, I'm gonna just show you. So I'm gonna show you something else here. So if for some reason you don't use the greatest common factor, that's okay, because what's gonna happen, I'm gonna show you. So instead of using 8, let's say we used 4. So I'm gonna divide out 4 from my terms. Here's my setup. So I'm dividing out 4. I have 18t plus 2. So what's going to happen is when I write my answer, so I would check and make sure that I don't have another factor. So let me look. 18, 2. 18, 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6, 2, 1 and 2. Well, when I look here, they have something in common still. So that means that I did not properly factor this as much as it can be. But I can go ahead and just take out a 2 from what I have left over. I don't have to go back and restart. So I'm going to take out a 2. And what's going to happen is I end up getting 9t plus 1 on the inside, and I'm going to multiply 4 times 2, which is 8. So I end up with my fully factored expression. I just had to do a couple more steps because this factored form right here was not as factored as it could be. That's why we want to try to do the greatest factor first. All right, go ahead and try exercise 2. Pause the video when you're all set. Check your work. All right, so I'm just writing out my factors. 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6, 2 and 36. And I already have all of my other ones up there, so I'm just going to kind of repeat them. 3, 24, 4, 18, 6, 12, 8, 9. My greatest common factor is 36. So I'm going to take out 36. So 36z plus 72 goes on the inside. I'm going to take out 36. So divide by 36 for both my numbers. 36z divided by 36 is 1z, or just z. And 72 divided by 36 is 2. So I'm going to have 36 times z plus 2. All right, I'm going to have you go ahead and try A, B, and C. Pause your video, work on those 3. When you're all done, unpause the video and check your work. All right, so here are your answers for A, B, and C. You should have 3 times R plus S, 11 times 5A plus 1, and 3 times 48Q minus 5. All right, that's all for this lesson. Good luck on your homework.